apologies from Honorable Tapa, Honorable Singh, and Deputy Minister Soju.
Okay, Honorable Tapa, Honorable Singh, and Deputy Minister Soju. All right. Are there other apologies honorable members would like to register? Okay, none.
No, Chair. I did send to the PC and the study group that I have a severe migraine, but I will log in. I won't be able to listen that much to participate, but I'm in. I will be going to the doctor, thanks.
So you're going to be here, but not all day?
Paulson did mal.
It is noted, Honorable Bata. Other apologies, honorable members? Okay, in the absence of any, can I get a mover for the adoption of the agenda?
I move, Chair.
Honorable Ganjo.
I second the move, Chairperson. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Mkunu, see your hand. Honorable Mkunu.
I move, Chair. Thank you, Chair. I move that we adopt the agenda as it is.
Okay, Honorable Ganjo had already moved. I suspect you are seconding, and Honorable Dlamini will be third-handing because he had not raised his hand. Right, honorable members, I have received the delegation led by Minister Chrissy today, together with the Director General, Ms. Nomfundo Chavalala. Part of the team is Ms. Flora Mokhohlwa, who is the department representative of SANParks Board. Ms. Skumza Nchanga, the department representative of SANBI Board. Mr. Sidney Nkosi, the department representative of iSimangaliso Board. Ms. Nomsahani, perpetual attendee from the office of the GM. Gift Mguni, office of the deputy of the minister. Zoniselo Nana, the office of the deputy minister. Nicholas Leontinis, office of the minister. Puiswan Dibongo, strategic support, office of the DG. Yamkela Mbogoto, office of the DG. From Sanbi, we have Professor Edward Nesamvuli, the board chairperson. Mr. Shonisani Munezi, the CEO, Lerato Stole, CFO, the Elliot Mashile, COO, Kamel Mbizo, Head of Biodiversity Science and Policy Advice, Mr. Jacob Kutu, Director Strategic Coordination and Oversight. That's the delegation of SANBI. From SANParks, we have Ms. Pamela Yako, the board chair, Property Mukwena, the acting CEO, Rebecca Pillay, acting CFO, Ms. Liz McCott, the COO of SANParks. That will be the delegation of SANParks. From iSimangaliso, we have Nkosi Mabudu, Israel Tembe, who is the chairperson, the board chairperson, Mr. Bukosini Busiso, the CEO, Kamkile Simangaliso Mtambo, CFO, Lungile Fanele Sbong and Tuli, strategic support manager. That is the delegation from the department and its entities. Without waste of time, Honorable Minister, I invite you to give us an overview of what to expect.
Let me change my background
Agreed.
Honorable Chairperson, and good morning. Good morning to all of the members, esteemed members sitting in this meeting today. Chairperson, we are bringing you the second quarter reports. First
Good
and
morning,
second.
Minister. Just before you continue, wow, I've never been called esteemed before. Thank you so much.
Well, you know, I like your T-shirt, so what can I say? So, colleagues, we're bringing you the first and second quarter reports of our three entities, SANParks, iSimangaliso, and SANBI. And as the chairperson has already indicated, the chairs and CEOs, as well as the relevant departmental officials who sit on the boards are all present. I think that the best thing would be for us to proceed with the inputs. Chair, I will request to leave at 12 as I have an engagement with the German embassy. But otherwise, I am here, and perhaps we can take things as we go along. You will give guidance whether you want us to present all reports and then we take questions, or one by one. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. I would like to throw that back to the honorable members. I suspect we might have seen the size of the presentations, and that decision will be informed by that. But let's then invite the chairperson of the board of SANBI.
Thank you, and good morning, Chairperson. I had trouble with my camera this morning. I hope you won't mind, Chairperson, that I proceed. Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee, Honorable Modise, and honorable members, Honorable Minister Chrissy, Deputy Minister Me Mokhotsu-Sotu, Board Chairpersons of DFFE entities, Director General of the Department of Forestry, Fisheries and Environment, and the DDGs and officials, SANBI CEO, management, executives, and other CEOs present. I'm pleased to be leading the SANBI delegation for today's Portfolio Committee, briefing on the performance of the Institute in the first two quarters of 2022 and 2023 financial year. SANBI achieved a performance of 87% against its APP commitments in both the first and the second quarters. The board of SANBI, which I represent here today, continues to provide oversight and guidance to the management team in line with the relevant legal prescripts governing the role and the conduct of the boards. I'm happy to report, Chairperson, that our collective efforts in implementing the identified corrective measures have seen the entity recording an improved performance of 93%, which is 41 out of 44 targets in the third quarter. SANBI continues to work hard and find innovative and collaborative ways to deliver on its mandate. Chairperson and honorable members, there are many achievements. However, there are a few areas that presented challenges, and this will be presented in detail by the management team. I would like to just highlight a few areas for noting by the committee. The first one is on the External Audit Improvement Plan 2021-2022. Following the conclusion of the external audit process, management developed an External Audit Improvement Plan, which was approved by the board. This plan seeks to improve the external audit outcome and address all the findings emanating from the 2021-2022 external audit process. The plan is monitored by the board on a quarterly basis to ensure that all the findings are fully resolved by the end of March 2023. I'm pleased to inform the committee that 79% of the findings have been resolved by the end of the second quarter, and that has improved to 84%, which is 26 out of 31 by the end of the third quarter. The second one is irregular expenditure. SANBI has received condonation from National Treasury on prior year irregular expenditure upon meeting the requisite criteria, applications of corrective measures, and the institution of consequence management. The third one is the financial position. SANBI financial position is solvent with total assets exceeding total liabilities and liquids current assets exceeding current liabilities. The fourth one is financial sustainability. SANBI financial sustainability strategy is at its advanced stage. The strategy is aimed at maximizing SANBI's income, generating potential through exploring identified opportunities, pursuing strategic partnerships, and other innovations. The other important issue to mention, Chairperson, is the DNA forensic analysis services. As part of SANBI's revenue generation efforts, SANBI was appointed by SAPS for a period of 3 years to render forensic services for the DNA analysis of materials and the exhibits of animals and plants. This is in recognition of SANBI's growing capacity and competencies in the area of genetic forensic science. The sixth one is a repositioning of the National Zoological Garden. A draft repositioning, which has been considered by the board, has been approved. One objective of the strategy is to enhance SANBI's financial sustainability through well-informed partnerships within the tourism industry that can collaborate on marketing and product packaging. The other important aspect is human capital development and transformation. SANBI is tasked with the responsibility of leading and coordinating the Groen Sebenza 2 program. This program has a target to appoint and place 1,050 young unemployed graduates with 86 participating host institutions made up of both government and non-government organizations in the environmental and biodiversity sector. The next item is SANBI Transformation Charter. The board continues to monitor the implementation of the SANBI's Transformation Charter, which it approved in November 2021. This charter articulates SANBI's posture and intent on transformation, records SANBI's commitment to transformation, and outlines the transformation aspiration, as well as provides the means to achieving the same. We are also very much into the biodiversity skills and transformation strategy. And the strategy is being taken through the DFFE's intergovernmental processes. The strategy has been recommended by MINMEC for submission to MINMEC. In terms of decision support, Chairperson, SANBI fulfilled its primary mandate through generating and coordinating scientific evidence required to support policies and decisions relating to better management and conservation of South African biological diversity. The other key program of SANBI is the garden expansion. We are at the level where we are looking into the Northwest province for new national botanical garden. SANBI has established a joint task team with DFFE and the Northwest province. Ongoing engagement with Northwest National Botanical Garden Task Team includes also the DFFE and Northwest Parks Board. And this is to establish a new National Botanical Garden, which is proposed to be located ideally in the Gaswane Mountain Reserve in Rustenburg. With regards to the last one, which is the adaptation and climate change, SANBI is accredited and have direct access entity of the Green Climate Fund, which is the largest operating entity of the UNFCCC, encouraging process in being made across SANBI's Green Climate Fund, which also looks into proposal development work. 2 proposals with a grant request value of $30 million and $25 million respectively have been approved by the GCF Secretariat for the full development, with one process well underway and the second about to commence. The third proposal, with a grant request value of 25 million, it's under consideration by the Secretariat. Honorable Chair and members, I will now request the CEO and the team to take the Portfolio Committee through the details of the presentation and all other aspects that pertains to the presentation today. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Shoni, Barminina.
The Honorable Chairperson.
Mlandu auna.
Auna kakati.
Rota karango manda.
Thank you, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members, Minister and Deputy Minister in absentia, the DG, the board chairs of different entities, and colleagues. I will be presenting both Q1 and Q2 at the same time, reflecting specifically in the nature that we always do on areas that we have not done well. If you go to the next slide, without going through each and every slide, suffice to confirm, if you go to slide number 4, that our vision and the mission are indicated there. We look after the critical aspects of what defines and sustains livelihoods through biodiversity conservation, and also provide science policy advisory, talking through issues of conservation, sustainable use, and also look after the botanical gardens that are centers for not only recreation and ecotourism, if you go to the next slide, but also sources of where science that supports decision-making is facilitated. The programs are as indicated. Of course, I did speak about the gardens and the nature of what they do. A very strong focus on science policy interface and human capital development and strategy and transformation and other corporate and related administrative issues. The last slide before I go to the areas that we haven't done well is slide number 6, that gives a summary of what we influence and what we do. Of course, as I've indicated, we depend on science, whose foundation is anchored on the work that we do through collections, through taxonomy, the mapping of where biodiversity critical areas are to inform development and decision-making and land use and related matters, the classification of ecosystems and species, trends analysis that we do to build biodiversity knowledge, and also assessments that we do, and the reports that we provide on the state of affairs and what needs to be done by different sectors to respond to biodiversity crises. The other issue is on science policy interface through information that we provide packaged in a manner that it can be used to inform policy, regulatory tools, and other instruments that are supported through the models that we do. We don't only look at the past and the present, we also are able to work on models that will indicate what will be in future and what are the implications to human well-being. So all of what we do would influence human well-being, have implications on job creation in one form or another, as you would see when I present. And the chair had spoken through also the work that we do that interfaces with how we adapt to climate change across the board. I would request that we go through the areas, if it's in order, Chair, that we have not done well in discharging our mandate. Suffice to say, if you go to the next slide, that on both quarters, we, as the Chair indicated, achieved 87% of performance in Q1. Go to the next slide, and also Q2. And then I will start with the first area that we didn't do well, reflected on slide 11 on Q1, and also on Q2 on slide 11, is the area that deals with the new infrastructure. The chair had indicated that we've got facilities, if you go to slide 11, in different areas, which we call botanical gardens. I indicated what they do. It's not only for enjoyment, it's not only for tourism, it's also for science, it's also for collections that reflect what we have as a country. It's where experiments are done, and all the things that are collected from a taxonomic perspective would also be informed by that to inform decision-making and planning in different areas. Only Northwest doesn't have one currently, but there were two that were added in the recent past, one in Limpopo in Toyando, and also one in East London, Eastern Cape, Koleha, National Botanical Garden. So despite or beyond the securing of the land, we have to put infrastructure that will make that area operational, both of them. And we were behind on Q1 and Q2 on what we set as targets, infrastructure development. We are confident that we are on track. We had since caught up. The main issue at the time was that we had unprecedented rains that affected the process, and some of the compliance requirements in the form of water use licenses, which we thought would be quicker than what we anticipated. All of those were, the WULA was resolved, and the work in East London or in Koleha, Eastern Cape continued, and the rain issue and the catch-up plan was put in place with the contractors that are responsible for this work. If we go to slide 16, there's an area in Q1 on NZG repositioning strategy and implementation plan. The chair also reflected on that. We are working, or we've been working on what we call the reimagined zoo, the modern zoo, and the changes that need to come to respond to the role that zoos need to play, mainly in conservation, in research, in education, making sure that the issues of welfare are taken care of appropriately. Our vision for the area is to make sure that the greening aspects are also taken care of and creating a different feel of what was in the past. So we were slower in the first and the second quarter, especially in the first quarter, on the targets that we had put in place. But as the chair had indicated, we finalized that strategy and the implementation plan. And I can safely say that it has already been approved by the board as we speak in its last meeting or previous meeting. In slide number 28, talks to biodiversity professionals. Part of the work that we do is to make sure that we play a critical role in human capital development on all aspects associated with biodiversity. And for that, skills are required, and appropriate skills, especially in areas that are categorized as scarce skills, to support this mandate. And as such, we support Black professionals. So the input system through graduates, some of them would come as postgraduates that need to be supported. We get the mentors within SANBI to finish their master's degrees, to finish their PhDs in record time with our support, so that they don't waste time in that space. But others who would need to get qualifications after they've been exposed to practicals through what we call work integrated learning, we give them an opportunity. Beyond that, we also support interns and postgraduate bursaries that are offered. The target is 228 for the year. At that time, by end of Q2, we're supposed to be at 90. We managed only 74. By end of Q3, we're already at 201. We'll be able to meet and surpass the target that was set for that purpose. Slide number 29, we'll talk of higher education institutions, also in line with human capital development, is to make sure that graduates or learners are exposed to careers, scarce areas or critical areas that are required in biodiversity, that under normal circumstances, if learners or students are not exposed to, will not be able to take. The marine biologists, the taxonomies, biodiversity informatics, and many other areas. I would not want to go through the list, it's endless. And therefore, would work with higher education institutions to that matter. We're targeted 20, and we ended up by end of February, we're already around 24 with those career support programs that we do. In slide number 34, on Q1 and Q2, we have set a target of 95 million additional amount that we would need to raise through resource mobilization, third parties, donors, international and other companies and others beyond the fiscus. By Q1 and Q2, we had 20 and also 14 targets respectively, and we achieved 6 and 10, which was far low where we wanted to be. Here we are counting money that is in the bank or that has already been transferred to us beyond the contracts that we would have signed. By end of February, we're already around 68 million of that 95, which represents 71%. So we were trying to move. There are a lot of dependencies on that, but we keep on working with external partners to make sure that we get as much money as possible to support our mandate. Slide number 35, both in Q1 and Q2, there's an issue around financial sustainability plan or financial sustainability strategy and implementation plan. By that time in Q1 and Q2, we're behind from a process perspective, and therefore we had since caught up, as the chair indicated. This matter was concluded and also approved by the board with the final strategy developed for SANBI that talks to a number of areas that will take SANBI from one level to another in ensuring that there's financial sustainability through the implementation of prioritized actions. 2 more areas on Q2 on biodiversity collections. We are responsible for more than 2 million collections that are in manual form in our 3 herbaria. So what we have done is that we are digitizing those. So on an annual basis, we have a target to get them digitized. We're behind on schedule. By end of Q3, we were at 39,000 of those collections being digitized. The annual target is 56,000. We are confident that by the end of the financial year, we would have done better. The last area that I need to highlight is the area that the chair spoke to on the Groen Sebenza graduate program. We are working with a number of host organizations, hosting interns in public and also in beyond public institutions, taking students on board. We were far behind with the processes initially. The setup process was quite cumbersome, but we put extraordinary measures to that to start having the intake coming on board. Even in Q3, we were still concerned, and then things started moving up faster. By end of yesterday, when I checked, we were close to around 830 or so of 1,050, and we're working very hard daily to make sure that we go beyond the 1,050 graduates that are coming at different levels, not only diplomas, BTECs, degrees included, honors, masters, PhDs coming on board. And the arrangement is that as much as possible, these graduates would then be found in the system, giving them an opportunity to be able to be absorbed, but also giving them an opportunity to be able to go to other sectors of biodiversity, even beyond where they are posted at the moment. Those are the areas that we needed to work very hard on, that are still reflected either as amber or red. But overall, as I indicated, for Q1 and Q2, we achieved an overall performance of 87%. I'll request the CFO to talk to the area on financials, Ms. Lorato Sithole.
Thank you, CEO. Good morning, Portfolio Committee Chair, members, the Minister, Deputy Minister, the DDG, and chairpersons of all the boards, CEOs, and all other colleagues. I think the presentation is moving to the financial presentation. I will cover the areas on financial performance similar to how the CEO presented. I'll cover Q1 and Q2 at the same time. On Q1, in terms of our revenue, We were behind target with 12%, but on Q2, which is reflecting now on the screen, we had exceeded it by 12%. For both quarters, we had received all the grant from the department, and from the non-exchange revenue, we then were on target. Exchange revenue, which deals with our own income, which we generate through the gardens. In Q1, we were behind the budget due to trading conditions. We have noted that our gardens have not fully recovered from the impacts of COVID-19. But in Q2, what we then had was an insurance claim which assisted us with boosting the overall revenue. Then coming to spending, on the next slide, for both quarters, we were behind spending by 23%. And the areas that really impacted us, our spending was on capital spending due to the triple PFA advisory note from National Treasury. But also on operating expenses in Q1, we had not realized the revenue and thus not be able to spend. But in Q2, we were delayed with the Groensebenza and greening and open space management projects, as they had not gained traction. Both have since improved as at Q3, as CEO has reported. Moving to the next slide on financial position for both Q1 and Q2, we were solvent and liquid. And in particular, in Q2, we had our balance sheet grow by 1%, coming from the increase in the cash balances that we are holding towards infrastructure and externally funded project. But for both quarters, if one looks at our total assets, they exceeded total liabilities, and even current assets exceeded current liabilities. On the next, and I think it's the last slide, we then have all the acronyms and abbreviations that we have used throughout the presentation. Thank you.
Chairperson, that is the presentation from SANParks.
Honorable members, do we engage SANParks first, or do we take all the presentations? Honorable Bryant, followed by Honorable Ganjo, just on this matter of guidance.
Yes, Chairperson. Chair, I am happy for us. Sorry, let me turn my camera on just so you can see me. I'm happy for us to take the next presentation and then take questions after. It's my opinion that we're not going to have as many questions on Sandy, but if other members feel differently, that's not a problem.
Okay, Honorable Ganjo.
Thank you, Chairperson. No, Honorable Bryant covered me. I wanted to also propose that we take all the presentations and then entertain questions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Ganjo. Honorable Paulsen.
Chairperson, I'll go with the majority, but I've got 2 questions for Sambi, so it's fine. We can.
Okay. Okay, then you'll be the. You want to be the first? You'll be the first. Can I note hence, honorable members? No. The agreement is that we must then take all the presentations, and then we'll engage them later. So we will note all the questions and then engage after. Okay, can we then go to the South African National Parks? It's my pleasure to invite the chairperson of the board, Ms. Yago.
Thank you, Chairperson. Honorable Chairperson and honorable members and Honorable Minister and Deputy Minister in absentia, the DG of the department and other senior officials in attendance, board chairpersons from other entities and CEOs and other officials. Good morning. I'm currently load shedding. May I switch off my camera, Chairperson, if that's okay? At this stage, I switch it on so that you can see me.
We saw you and were quite impressed, Chair. You can switch it off.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Chairperson, as you had indicated, our delegation this morning was outlined. I would just add Mr. Lucas Zeppe from the who manages the office of the CEO. I'm happy to present our Q1 and Q2 performance reports, and also just want to make a point that there are, if you look at our performance, and we'll come to the detail, and the acting CEO, Mr. Mokoena, will cover the detail, is that we have seen an improvement in many of the areas from Q1 to Q2. And we are obviously not happy with some of the areas where we haven't achieved. However, we are looking at some further improvements in Q3 and Q4. And this, Chairperson, as indicated before, is a function of various efforts that at board level that we've put in place. One, quarterly monitoring through our board committees, the performance improvement, as well as on the audit side, we do have an audit tracker, which is monitored by our audit and risk committee, and that we're hoping that cumulatively it's going to help us as we get to the end of the financial year, that we achieve an improvement in terms of our audit outcomes. I also want to make just a couple of other points, Chair, and highlight them and just our thinking as a precursor to the presentation that will get into the details. Firstly, that and this is we are going to be at a relevant time come and present our new plans for the year or the APP. However, it's just safe to say that there are certain areas that we are looking at strengthening, which you might have seen underperformance, or we are strengthening in the new financial year ways of implementation. And those include us rethinking our vision as an organization. We have a current vision, and we are looking at a process of developing a vision 2040. That project, which has started, is about bringing the rest of South Africa on board in terms of the kind of organization or South African national parks that they would want to see, given the fact that we are the custodians of your natural and cultural heritage. And that thinking has affected, we will see in the report, how we have performed with regard to the internal re-engineering of the organization, because it is our view that you must begin with the end in mind. And once that is clearer, then you are able to configure what kind of an organization that you need to be in order to respond to your vision. So the delays with regard to the re-engineering project are linked to the fact that we're starting to look at things strategically and seeing how do we then reconfigure our organization to respond to that. You will also see, Chairperson, with regard to our what we call socio-economic transformation issues, that we have, you will see the actual performance that we have, and as per our current APP. I would also want to say that we are involved in a process that the minister is leading, and that is looking at transformation within the sector, and we're taking guidance from that process. So what matters, we will report today what we've done on in terms of our job creation, community empowerment, skills development, and all of those things, and EPWP performance. We do hold a view now that we need to, in line with the process that the minister is leading, to look at a review of our SET strategy. Thirdly, Honorable Chairperson and members, we have also, I think this is a Q3 report. We participated in COP15 deliberations. Where that is relevant for us, we are doing work now in terms of reimagining our protected areas, guided again by the minister's process in this regard. So much as we will report on where we are in Q1 and Q2, we're starting to recalibrate a little bit as we move into the new year. Climate change response, we finished that work in Q2, and this came, Chairperson and honorable members, at an important time, because and you would have seen that we had with the floods in the Kruger National Park. So we're looking at implementation plan, and as well as looking at internally, how do we make sure that we have energy efficiency? Those are some of the things that we've achieved, but at the same time is work in progress. Two more things that I would like to highlight is then the tourism safety, which is a big issue. It's been in the newspapers, and we have looked at increased our efforts to improve the safety of tourists, mainly around the Kruger. You might have seen the incidents around the Numbi Gate. We participate with law enforcement agencies and other community or civil society structures to make sure that we create a safer environment. We participate in a number of forums that deal with tourism safety, but on a kind of a weekly basis, we do through our social media platforms, issue advisories to tourists in terms of how to keep safe and what roads or routes to take in getting to the park. Obviously, we do this in partnership with other stakeholders. And lastly, Chairperson, an issue that is of concern and has been raised by the committee before, relates to issue around land claims in the Kruger National Park, and we have taken efforts to try and take that work forward. In our presentation, Chairperson, if I may just make one or 2 points around that. Firstly, it's an improvement in our performance, that in Q2 we achieved 77%, which is an improvement from the 65% that we achieved in Q1. There's still 15% which is not achieved, and that is an area of concern to us. And secondly, we also want to report, as we read listen to the presentation, that this year we've started seeing an improvement in terms of our finances, and this is a function of visitors coming to our national parks. You will see specifically we've started to see improvement in tourist visitors, both domestically and international tourists. we are not at where we were pre-COVID, but we are turning the corner. But just to say that on the finance side, and the acting CFO will cover this, that we started where we are at the end of Q2. We saw we were at 171 million profit, as opposed to a deficit at the same time the previous year of 108 million. 88 million. So there are some improvements in terms of where the organization is, and we are working both in terms of a strategic direction and improve our implementation capability to make sure that in the outer quarters and in the coming years that we see the organization and take the organization to different heights. I would then, Chairperson, with your permission, request the acting CEO, Mr. Mokoena, to do the presentation with regard to the actual performance in Q1 and Q2. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. CEO, acting CEO.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning. My name is Property Mokoena. Honorable Chair, Honorable Minister, Deputy Minister in absentia, all honorable committee members of the Portfolio Committee, board chairs of other entities, DG and DDGs, and CEOs and colleagues. Good morning once again. As the chair has sort of outlined some of the key issues for SANParks, I will focus mainly on the areas where we are facing difficulties. Members, you can move to the next slide. Our outline, members, we will deal with the following issues. We'll highlight some of the issues which were raised by this committee from our previous appearance, to share with you what we are doing in those areas. And we'll look at our mission and vision, which is commonly known by most of us. And we will look at the performance of Q1 and Q2 for that period. And the CFO will deal with the last part, which is the financial performance of SANParks. Next slide. Next slide. These are these are issues which we wanted to share with the committee around youth employment and SME development. We are committed to this Groen Sebenza program, which SANBI is running. We are going to be employing 100 unemployed graduates for a 2-year program. And our commitment there is that we'll absorb 50% of those youth, and we'll place them across our national parks. And it consists of various expertise, from conservation to tourism and to finance, all the expertise which we have in SANParks in terms of supporting them. And SANParks continues to partner with universities, especially for practical learning in our national parks. Most degrees require you to have sort of experiential learning, which we provide a platform for that within SANParks. To date, we've created about 5,300 jobs through the EPWP program. This is a fully funded program by the department, and we really appreciate that contribution, because that goes a long way in doing our conservation work in national parks. On stakeholder engagement, members, we continue to manage it, and we continue to monitor the implementation of our plan. in areas such as Table Mountain. As you know, that we've got active stakeholders there. We are busy with that baboon management task team, which was established, and it has been released now for comments. We had public stakeholder engagement on the 3rd of March, where we're collating some of the inputs. We are hoping that by the end of this year, we'll have the final product. That product is a jointly developed product with the City of Cape Town and Cape Nature and SANParks in the community at large. Next slide. On visitor safety, I think the chair cited this, especially in the areas around Kruger National Park. We are working very closely with the stakeholders down there. There's a launch which is coming around the 24th of this month. We'll be hosting the local tourism authority there with communities around the Numbi Gate, and we'll be making sure that communities are participating in that program. Last one on this one, Chair. Chair, if I can just have a minute. I don't know what they are doing in this office. They are drilling something. I just want to stop them. Just a minute. Okay, thank you, Chair, for that. And the last one is around our PPP. We had an investment summit last year where we were showcasing the opportunities which are available in our national parks. We have sort of committed that we'll deliver 7 PPPs. PPPs are very critical in terms of our diversification of our products and in terms of using private funding for sort of development and creating facilities which appeals to all stakeholders within our national parks. So we are doing very well when it comes to that as SANParks. You can go to the next slide. Just our vision quickly and our mission, members. I think that you will all know this one, that we are responsible for managing a system of national parks. And our vision, we are aspiring to be a world-class system of sustainable national parks, reconnecting and inspiring society. That's very key, members, because some national parks were designed with the absence of people. I think this vision is in line with the 2040 vision, I think, but it will be made much better. Next slide. This just shows out of our 4 outcome goals, members, you'll see on the biodiversity one, we have achieved 89% on it. And on the improved tourism, improve diverse responsible tourism, we've achieved 100% on that outcome goal. This will reflect, of course, on our revenue. It links to that. On the socio-economic development, we've achieved 81%. And the last one, which is sustainable and transformed organization, that one we've sort of underachieved 58%. That leads us to the 77%, which the chair spoke about. You will note that on the first quarter, we're at 65%. So on the second quarter, we're at 77%. And we are forecasting something above 80 or 90 on the last quarter. Next slide. This just shows the pie chart in terms of the achievements of quarter 2. I would like you to take me to slide 6 so that I focus on the non-performance. Yes, the red one, yeah. Okay. I think we are not stopping. Okay, so it's fine. We can deal with this one. So you will see here, we committed to deliver 40 giraffes in Zinave. Zinave is a park which sits in Mozambique. However, we could not achieve this due to the TP or the quarantine status of Kruger National Park. We have in turn then revised this target. We are not going to be implementing this target. You can take me to the next one, which is I think slide 9. You can go to the next slide. Yeah. Okay, thank you. And on this one, members, as part of our socio-economic development, we are committing to, we committed to deliver 1,000 animals over a year. And both quarter 1 and quarter 2 were supposed to deliver almost above 500, and we could not achieve this target. We've delivered only in total, I think 341 for the 2 quarters, and that had to do with the droughts for the particular areas or for the Eastern Cape areas where we wanted to get these animals. And you will know that drought has sort of a negative impact in the environment. Then the animals will now not be in a good condition. Then if you are going to capture them, you will create another stress which may lead to increased mortalities. We therefore revised this target to reduce the number, to make it practically possible for us to be able to implement it. This program, it's a well-governed program. It's a transparent program. We do a call every year where emerging farmers will apply, and we do assessments of different farms before the animals are allocated. These are indigenous animals, which means are animals which belongs to South Africa, plains game animals, which is not a dangerous animals, if I can put it in that manner. Next one. Okay. And on this one, members, we were committing to contribute 40% of the QSE. You will know this was it's in relation with the court judgment. We could not implement this successfully, and we're hoping, and you will know that the Treasury halted all the bids in relation to this, and we've designed plans so that we do catch up on quarter 3 and the last quarter, which is end of this financial year. Next slide. Similar to this one, it's related to the previous one. The impact or the cause for non-achievement is the same like what I've explained earlier. Can go to the next one. Yeah, members, this the chair explained this non-implementation of the re-engineering in detail. However, we have now included this target with the 2040 vision, which talks about reimagining and co-creating new national parks of the future. So it will then be implemented successfully on the 4th or 3rd quarter. We did not achieve it on this quarter, but I think the chair has explained for the non-performance of this one. Next slide. This chair, national parks, you'll know that we host a range of animals, and sometimes we remove those animals for revenue generation. We had a target, I think, here for 6 million. We could not achieve it. A combination of factors led to that, including drought, including the the specific bid which was not advertised on a specific time. We've revised this target to down to 3 million. Instead of removing animals to a value of 6 million, we've reduced it to a lower amount. You will know I've mentioned the impact of drought in terms of populations or in terms of animals. The same reasons which are advanced earlier are relevant here, because you can now remove a high number of animals if there's drought. Next slide. You can go next one, the next red one. Yeah, thank you. SANParks members, we have a large number of workforce. So as part of our human capital, the board made a decision that we have to have a overarching human capital strategy, and that was developed and it was presented to the board at that time. However, the board felt that this strategy needs to go back and be resourced properly and be consulted with all the pillars of human capital strategy for other divisions. Then we did not achieve at that time. However, I can report to the members that in the recent board meeting, which took place in March, the strategy was finally approved. Thank you. Next one. Yeah, this pillar as well, in terms of succession planning, it was not achieved. However, it is now, I think, sits or it is part of the human capital strategy. I think this is the last red one. Next one. Okay, almost there. As part of our digital strategy project, we were supposed to do some system configuration on the second quarter. We did not do that. We have planned to do it on quarter 3 and definitely will implement that. SANParks is sort of transitioning and developing enterprise resource planning. We're supposed to do that in second quarter. We did not manage to deliver that. We needed to consult all other departments across the country in terms of this and to develop the specification in quarter 3. We will definitely sort of have recovered in the third quarter. Next slide. Next one. I think that was the last one. Okay, members, I think that in terms of the performance for quarter 1 and quarter 2 for SANParks, we've performed 65% in the first quarter and 77% in the second quarter, and we are projecting a higher percentage in the third and fourth quarter. And we've developed clear catch-up plans to deal with the non-performance of the previous quarters, members. And I would like to ask the acting CFO to present the financials. It's only 2 slides. Over to you, Chair. Rebecca, are you there? Rebecca, I don't know whether it's me. I can't hear anything.
We can hear you. Where is Rebecca?
She's acting CFO, but if it will delay us, maybe I can do it.
No, Rebecca? She's not here. She's here.
Yeah,
I think she has unmuted, but we can't hear her.
Okay, maybe let me do it, members, so that we save time and she will deal with the questions. She can disconnect and maybe reconnect. So our financial position as for 30 September 2022, I think the chair spoke to it as well. On the revenue side, we projected a budget of 1.5 billion, and we had the actual performance of 1.592. So it is better in terms of what we budgeted for. And you will see on the total expenditure, we had a budget of 1.4 billion. We've expensed about 1.3 billion. There are areas there around maintenance where we're not doing well, where we needed to improve. And if you look at the net surplus, we have sort of achieved 171 surplus in terms of revenue. It's better than the previous year because there we're talking deficit. Next slide. This just shows what I've just explained, members, in terms of our budget. But I must say that as much as we generate revenue, we rely heavily from our department in terms of funding for our EPWP and other related projects. You will see on the total expenditure there, 47% is related to HR or employee cost, which means that our employee costs are sort of creating a serious cost, because SANParks is heavy when it comes to a number of employees, especially on the ground. And the next other part shows just a slice and shows the different elements where our revenue comes from. I think, members, this will be the last slide, and we want to present to you the performance of SANParks for quarter 1 and quarter 2 for the previous year. Thank you.
Raleboga Ntate, thank you very much. Hopefully Rebecca would have joined at the time of questions. Can we go to Honorable Paulsen? I see your hand. Is it the legacy hand? Honorable Paulsen, is that an old hand? Okay, let's proceed. Can I invite the chairperson of iSimangaliso Wetland Park Authority, Nkosi Mabudu Tembe?
Thank you very much, Chairperson. My greetings to Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee, honorable members of the committee, honorable Minister, Deputy Minister, in the absentia, fellow board chairpersons who are present to this meeting, Director General, Chief Executive Officers who are present, and the officials in attendance. May I first appreciate and thank the Honorable Minister for the new appointment as the board chairperson of iSimangaliso Wetland Park Authority that is recently happened on the 1st of March. And I would like also to extend the word of gratitude for the board members who are also appointed on the very same month. Honorable Chairperson, as the entity, our collective responsibility is to ensure that iSimangaliso maintains and sustain its World Heritage status and continue to play a pivotal role in reduction of unemployment, poverty, and inequality, especially to the people living adjacent to the park. In the first quarter, the entity had planned 44 output indicators. For quarter 1, 42 output indicators were on target. That it translates to 96 performance for the quarter. Only one target was not achieved, and only one target was working in progress. The second quarter, the entity had planned 51 output indicators. 46 output indicators were on target. This is translate to 90% performance for the quarter. Five targets were not achieved. Although 100% has not been achieved for the quarter, I am happy that the entity performance is 90% and above. I think at this point in time, Chairperson, I would like to invite our CEO to give more info for the presentation. That it will be Emmanuel Sibusiso Bukosini. He will give us more details on the presentation. Thank you very much for the opportunity, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Mr. Emmanuel Bukosini.
Hi. Thank you, Chairperson. Hey, I think I must look for second names as well. No, thank you very much, Chairperson, and greetings to yourself. Greetings to the members present, as well as the Honorable Minister, our Deputy Minister in absentia, our DG, chairpersons of the boards of the entities, SANBI and SANParks, who are with us here today, DDGs, colleagues, a very good morning to all of you. Thank you very much for the opportunity. The chairperson of iSimangaliso has already indicated our performance for Q1 and Q2 respectively, as he has correctly alluded to our performance, which we can trace from the presentation. Chairperson, I am going to concentrate on areas where there are challenges or areas where we experience challenges, but also give an indication of what were the reasons and what did we do to try and correct the situation and where we currently are in as far as those areas are concerned. The entity in the first quarter had 44 output indicators as indicated. 42 were on target, which made us to be sitting at about 96% performance. There was just one target that was work in progress. The target where we could not achieve our target was revenue to the park. We had planned in the first quarter to achieve 14,080,133. Now our actual there in the first quarter was 4,906,000. The reason the chairperson and members was mainly because of the flooding situation, which we all know in that period, especially started in April, where most of our visitors canceled and were not able to come to visit our park because of that situation. So it did really contribute negatively on our revenue generation to the park, especially because we rely on visitors coming from Durban and from other areas or coming through Durban and other areas, and those are the areas which were greatly affected, as we all know. The Q2, we had 51 and 46 out of those were on target. And we then had 90% as the achievement that we could report at that point in time. The first issue, Chairperson, which one would have loved to at least give you comfort, was the audit opinion. But unfortunately, there was just one small issue where we took one service provider to a stage of evaluation, in as much as they were not awarded that contract. But the fact that they were on the evaluation, AG gave us a stick there and denied us a clean governance purely on the basis of that. So had it not been for that, all other issues were green, and we were going to be getting a clean audit opinion, which we believe we are going to do our best in this year which will be under review soon. Expenditure, 95% is the annual target, but the second quarter target was also 95. We achieved 81%. I'm sure we will recall that there was a challenge which we all had of the National Treasury Circular number 1 of 2022-23, wherein we were barred from procuring or proceeding with the procurement processes because there was clarity that the court wanted to finalize it, especially after the judgment of 16 February 2022. Now, that caused a lot of delays for a number of procurement-related activities. So the 81% expenditure was then affected as a result of that. You will see as we go down that even the percentage implementation of the procurement plan was also affected. We have planned 40%, but we only achieved 27%. Kilometers of the fence maintained. We planned 10 kilometers. We could not do anything because we could not appoint. Obviously, as I indicated, the revenue to the park in the second quarter was also affected for the same reasons that I indicated earlier on. We have made significant strides in terms of addressing all the issues that I'm talking about. For instance, if you go to the issue of the revenue to the park to date, we are working on the issue of the commercialization, wherein we are now at an evaluation stage, and very soon we will be awarding those contracts, and we're hoping that the revenue that will be generated from that is going to contribute significantly in terms of increasing our revenue. And expenditure on capital projects is going to contribute again on that because there are management and administration fees that will generate as a result of that. Chairperson, that then marks the performance of iSimangaliso in quarter 1 and quarter 2. But I think it would be remiss of me, Chairperson, not to attend to the issue of great interest to this portfolio committee, the issue of the backflooding, the implementation of the action plan following the launch of that panel report by the minister on the 28th of April 2022. I must say, Chairperson, that recently, I think a week ago, the minister was on site at iSimangaliso and she did fly over the farms. The situation is very bad. Farmers are in a very terrible situation, not because they're being difficult, but the reality is that the situation is very bad. About 2,500 hectares of their land, both commercial as well as the small-scale farmers, is underwater. They are not in a position to carry on with what they are doing. As a result, they are not getting any income. They are also not in a position to even pay the salaries for the employees. In fact, there are more retrenchments during this time when we are trying to create employment. So the situation is very bad. Some of them, when I interact with them one-on-one, they even tell me that there are incidences of attempted suicides. So that's how bad the situation is there. So I must quickly indicate, Chairperson, that as iSimangaliso and the department, we are not taking this matter lightly, and we're not being insensitive to the situation. It is for that reason that despite the fact that there are bottlenecks procedurally and from a legislative point of view, we are constantly in touch, and the minister also came herself and met with these farmers to hear, but also to say that what is it that we have done, what is it that we are doing, and what are our plans going forward. In terms of the panel recommendations, they were categorized into 3. There was an immediate priority recommendation which had to be implemented in the 2 years. There is also a medium-term priority recommendation which had to be implemented within 3 to 5 years. as well as the long-term priority recommendation, which must be implemented way beyond 5 years. But the key issue that we need to talk about here is that the system has been interfered with quite significantly, and unfortunately it will be very difficult for it to operate naturally as it used to some time or some many years ago. The panel and the symposium agreed that adaptive management will have to be the way to go from now going forward, which means that we will have to look at how the system is responding and then respond or make management interventions based on that. So adaptive management is the way to go from now on. Now, the panel had, there's an action plan which was later consolidated between ourselves, the department, as well as the stakeholders themselves. So it came out to a couple of recommendations, but the first recommendation is the ecological and socio-economic circumstances which warrants breaching that needed to be defined in the estuary management plan as well as the maintenance plan. So the key issue here is the review of the estuary maintenance plan and the management plan, purely because the current estuary management plan and the estuary maintenance plan does not take into cognizance socio-economic issues, but only the ecological issues. Therefore, the primary goal within that 2 years is to make sure that we finalize the review of the plan so that when there is a need, as per the occurrences in the system, in line with the adaptive management system, after conducting the necessary scientific justification, we are able to respond accordingly. The clearing of Umsunduzi and Mpolozi beach channel vegetation, it's another area of focus. To date, if I may just report on the first one, is that we have appointed the consultants who are going to finalize the issue of the review of the plan as well as the maintenance plan, and we anticipate that they will finalize their work by the end of August this year. The clearing of Umsunduzi, we have received commitment from Dalrat, about 900,000, to assist in the survey, which will determine whether there is going to be a need of a basic assessment or a full EIA. If there is going to be a need for basic assessment, we'll need 3 months and then implement what needs to be done. But if a full EIA will be required, then unfortunately we'll have to go through a process of 18 months, and thereafter we'll implement the recommendations in accordance with what will be the outcomes of that environmental impact assessment. However, I must quickly indicate, Chairperson, that on the 16th of February, we met with the farmers when we were reporting to them progress that has been made thus far on the implementation of the action plan. And they appreciated that in as much as they expressed their frustration, as they've equally done so to the minister. But there is one suggestion which they put forward, that of declaring a state of disaster, given the situation that is currently happening. Our department has hastened the process because we met on the 16th. By the 23rd, we had engaged the Department of Cooperative Governance on that area, and the Department of Cooperative Governance have committed that there will be a team within March and to go that declaring a state of disaster. We go that route. It would basically mean that we are going now to circumvent the winding process and go straight into implementation, and we will await the outcome of that. But in the meantime, Chairperson, we have we are carrying on with the clearing of the alien vegetation in the dunes. 65 hectares already have been cleared. The only challenge that we have is the inundation of water, because there are crocodiles and hippos. So our contractors, 3 contractors that were appointed, are unfortunately how this
Mr.
We were
Emmanuel?
also requested to employ. Yes, sir.
I suspect your bandwidth is very bad, man. I don't know what happened. We keep on losing you, Mr. Emmanuel.
Now? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, please try again. Let's hear.
Can you hear me?
Honorable members, am I the only one who's struggling to hear Mr. Emmanuel?
No,
We
Chair.
are also struggling.
Yes, we're
He's
struggling.
breaking up, Chair.
Yes, he's very low signal.
Yeah, Mr. Emmanuel, there's
Oh,
confirmation that I'm not the only one who's struggling.
Try now. Okay.
Please try
Let
again.
me try. Let me try on the other project. The person I'm talking now from the CFO's project. Can you hear me?
You sound much better, Mr. Emmanuel. Please proceed.
Okay, let me just switch off the one. Just leave the machine. Yes, thank you. All right. Thank you very much, Chairperson. Let me proceed from this side. Okay. I hope you can hear me now. Okay, I was saying that we've been requested as well, Chairperson, to develop our own capacity by employing an ecologist as well as the research technician. And I'm happy to indicate to you that we have now appointed to finalize the process of the recruitment, and we are expecting the incumbents to start in April. So I think that's what we've done thus far. We are carrying on with the engagement with the farmers. They're not alone. We're sharing with them all the frustrations, but of course, it doesn't help them that much except to say that we're not running away from them. We're working with them at all times. So that is where we are with regards to this issue of the estuary. One of the key issues, Chairperson, is that we can't wake up and do anything, because you will recall that when the system was assisted, previously there were criticisms up to a point where the minister had to appoint an independent panel, because the issue was that for each and every action that we are undertaking on the system, there has to be scientific justification. So that is where we are with regards to that. I think, Chairperson, that concludes my presentation. Safe to say that the CFO will also be taking us through the financials. Thank you very much.
Good morning, Chairperson. I would like us to go to slide 80. Good morning, Chairperson, the Minister and Deputy Minister in her absentia, honorable members, chairpersons of the entities, and colleagues. Thank you so much. I'd like us to go to slide 80. 80. Hopefully I'm audible. In terms of our financial performance, Q1 and Q2, yes, I think, yeah, they're hearing me. They're hearing me. In terms of Q1 and Q2, we were behind as the other entities. Also, we were sitting at about 13 million, instead of our total target for revenue to the park is to be generated. It's 72 million, but as for the first quarter and the second quarter, we're sitting at about 13.6 million. As the CEO has mentioned, some of the issues were around the flooding, as well as the issues on our expenditure, on our grants expenditure. So in terms of the grants, we had received all our grants from the department, but we were unable to spend at Q1 and Q2. Because of that, constitutional judgment around the SEM issues. I would also like to mention that in terms of the expenditure, all our expenditure, if you go to the next slide, were maintained throughout the 2 quarters. There were no over and under expenditure or over expenditures. Then when we go to position, the next slide is that we are on both our quarters. We were liquid, meaning that our assets were exceeding our liabilities, especially with regards to the grants, and our total assets were sitting at about 763 million. That is all we want to bring in terms of the financial sustainability. The entity is still grant dependent, but we are working, as the CEO had mentioned, we are working on our financial sustainability plan. Currently, the small cap is to be finalized in the last quarter, and going to the next year, going to finalize the big capitalization. Thank you so much, Chairperson, for the opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Honorable members, those are the presentation of the South African, of the entities. iSimangaliso Wetland Park Authority, SANBI, and South African National Parks. By show of hands, I invite you. I invite Honorable Winkler to be the first, Honorable Weber, Honorable Paulsen, Honorable Bryant, Honorable Kancho, Honorable Mkunu, in that order. Honorable Winkler.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to the presenters. I'm just going to start with SANBI's presentation. With regard to the Green Climate Fund and the amount in grant funding received so far, how much has been received and what is it being used for, which programs exactly? Because I know that there was mention of an application. So I just want to establish what's been received and what is still being applied for, and if funds have been received, what program is this being used on? Then with regard to the, I think it was the 2015 COP that was mentioned, and the deliberations around protected areas. With regard to the 30 by 30 targets for the Biodiversity Convention, what is SANBI's, I think, perspective and approach to this? And are we looking at targets to match this international commitment? And if so, what sort of plan or process is in place around that? Then with regard to SANParks, a report was released by, I think, an independent researcher called Julian Rademeyer, and it implicated, well, it intimated that there was rife corruption at the Kruger National Park, to such an extent that it was alleged that 70% of the personnel working at the park are involved in some way or the other in organized crime and criminal syndicates, and was found that individuals had received payments, etc. So that wasn't made mention of at all. And I just wonder, has SANParks and the CEO and the minister seen this report? How is this going to be approached with the allegations of such rife corruption that are threatening the entire rhino population in that park? And I see that 62 rhinos were poached in this Q2 report, which is obviously extremely concerning. Then with regard to, again, I think it was about the expansion of the national parks. Again, how does this tie into the 30 by 30 Biodiversity Convention targets? There was a point on emerging farms and the donation of game. So once this happens, are there support plans in place to assist these emerging game farmers to manage these species and to ensure the longevity of that enterprise? I just worry about giving over game and then not really providing sort of facilitative process for the management of that. Then with regard to iSimangaliso, I know the estuary management has been an ongoing issue. A lot of the tourism stakeholders in the area have contacted me over many years, and I've been working with them on an ongoing basis. And I just wonder, what is the next step in that estuary management plan? I think the mouth has once again closed up With regards to the backflooding that's affecting all the sugarcane farmers, obviously this is something that is of grave concern, and I'm very thankful to the minister for going there over the weekend. My concern is that if a state of disaster is not called, and I know COPTA was meant to go there, I think, last week, but did not arrive for some reason. What happens is that then we will go into a situation where you need to conduct an EIA, and that could take, an extended amount of time. And obviously the situation is quite urgent at present. So if a state of emergency disaster is declared, then of course that EIA gets waived and there can be immediate intervention. So I wonder how exactly the minister and department is going to work around that to ensure that there's some immediate resolve. And if an EIA is required every time you need to sort of unclog the river from all this very dense vegetation, it just becomes, how do I say, it's a short-term solution, but in the long term, you need a management plan that sees that river frequently, according to a management plan, being unclogged of all the reeds and other vegetation that's causing this backflooding. So where are we in terms of a management plan that doesn't require, an EIA every so often, that takes an extended period of time? That's all from me so far. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Winkler. Honorable Weber.
Thank you, Chair. Am I audible?
Yes, you're
Can
audible.
you hear me?
Yes,
All right,
we can.
thank you. Thank you, Chair. Thank you to Ms. Jaco for her words, and then to the acting CEO, Mr. Mokoena. Just a comment, Ms. Jaco spoke about the land claims and they're moving forward. I was just wondering, not today, but if we can maybe just get a presentation again on exactly what is happening with the land claims moving forward. I know it's a complicated situation. All right, on slide 3, you spoke about the 50% of the interns that are included in the way you've reached your target. I'm just concerned we're training people, and the other 50%, what will be happening to them? They're just going out there, or is there a plan for them being trained and educated and not being included into the plans? Then something that is close to my heart, and I love the program from SANParks where the schools can come a certain time of the year to SANParks and for free come in and do their thing. But if you look at the number of schools that did come, and it's a lot of schools, but if you look percentage-wise in the country of the number of schools they are, it is not that much. My concern is also that this program is put there for especially our poor children and our disadvantaged people to be able to go to SANParks or to a national park. And I know in my own province, there is no possibility of our rural schools actually affording it to go to SANParks, because although SANParks is for free and people can go in there for that time, or the schools, I mean, traveling there for 7-8 hours with 65 kids in a bus, it's a whole day's travel there. And then it's in the same province. And then they're there for a day. If they need food or boarding or everything, it is still at their cost. So it is a very nice initiative. But again, I do not think it might address the issue of rural or our poor children being able to see this. I just want to mention that, because although it's a great thing, I'm not sure it does reach what we want to do with that. On slide 4, my concern is about the visitor safety, specifically at KNP, and the plan is they're working very closely with the police. I want to know what is the modus operandi and what is the plan between the rangers, KNP and the police, because if you look at the Letaba fights that was there, and the police and the rangers were actually shooting at one another, and my colleague just addressed the corruption or the irregularities in KNP with people being involved. We are also aware of the police. So what is the plan between the police and the rangers to work together in combating this crime? Because we've seen crime just outside the gates, the strikes, everything, and the police hardly ever are there to assist. So is there a plan for the rangers and the police working together to combat the peace and make sure our tourists and our people that's going there is safe? Then I want to speak on a couple of things. The slide 16 and 41, I think they're combined for me. I'm a little bit concerned about the donations and the emerging farmers saying that they couldn't reach the target because the availability of the animals are not there. And then my concern is, why aren't the animals available? And the reason that was given is drought. So I have concerns about it. What is the plan when, like in Addo, when our national parks are ridden with drought? I'm aware of 3 giraffes being moved recently from Addo to another place due to the due to the drought. As well in Kenya, they're busy moving giraffes because of the drought. So my first question to this is, what is the effect of the drought? How many animals have died? And is it they are not being moved to emerging farmers or to other places? Is it because they're not in a good condition or they can't be moved? Or what is the reason for not moving the animals? In other words, is it not better to move these animals to a better place when there is droughts? And then again, I wanted to agree with my colleague. My question was also about what is your criteria and your assessment to ensure who can be emerging farmers? And then is there a monitoring system to at least for the first 5 years see in what condition the animals remain, and if they are having babies, and if are they moving forward? Is there something in place, monitoring process on the emerging farmers regarding game? And then I would like to know the drought, specifically they spoke about it in the Eastern Cape. I want to know what is the strategic plan for the fact what we're doing if there is a drought. You speak about culling, and I was wondering, when you speak about culling, and in the same slide you speak about the unavailability of the animals, it's 2 different things. The one was being culled and the other one was being drought. So is culling still taking place if there is a drought? And then if there is a list of animals in every single SANParks national park of, say, too many elephants are there and they need to be culled, or there's so many zebras and they need to be culled. And if that process will not be stopped if there is a drought, as this will have an impact on the number of animals that are there. And then on slide 18, you speak about, I know we've spoken about this and it will come, and I think it will keep on coming up. The target is 250, and we reach our target, and then it reads, within target, no runners will poach in a specific national park. And then again in KNP, within target, 62 rhinos were poached. I really would like to suggest again that we don't want any rhinos to be poached, that the target will be set at 0, and everything above is not reaching the target. Because we have a problem with the rhinos being poached. I saw also that we lost 40 animals, 40 elephants to poaching. Again, colleagues, the target should be 0, and I just want to mention that again, that is a serious problem. So on slide 18, if with acceptance that 175 rhinos have been poached, we reach our target, or how can this be acceptable if that equates to 7% of the 2021 estimated population? And then a 7% poaching rate has previously resulted in a net decrease in the rhino population. therefore contradicting the target of a 5% increase on slide 16. And the question is just, how can this be acceptable? And then last week we were informed, I can't remember now the lady's name, about the rangers. Even she mentioned her exact words were, even if they get the money, they will not appoint rangers. Again, should this not be a priority to appoint rangers when we're sitting with a 9 million under budget and we do need rangers trained and fighting the poaching in our parks? And then I would like to request a list, if that is possible, of all the parks in SANParks, of animals to be culled. How many are there? And the reason to be called probably is there's too many of them, but it would be nice to have a list of that and what the value of the money to that will be. And then also a list of all animals that are, and parks that are ridden with drought. How many animals have died? How many are in a bad condition? And what can the park do? Can we bring water into it? What is the plan to fight this drought? I thank you very much.
Honorable Paulsen.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and thank you to the presenters. I'd just like to know from SANB, how many jobs were created through the Green Fund? And how is the department engaging with the departments of Science and Innovation, as there's quite a bit of synergy in what SANB and the DSI is doing, especially with regards to the indigenous knowledge systems? And of the animals delivered to communities and farmers, and how many of these animals were delivered to Black farmers? If I'd like to know which Black farmers are being assisted to enter the space of commercial farming. And in terms of the farmers affected by the Mangaliso flooding, what sort of assistance and what sort of relief has the department sought for these farmers? Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable Paulsen. Honorable Bryant.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Just firstly, in terms of SANB, I spoke a little bit about the revenue generation that's going to be made up soon. I can't remember the exact amount, but it was quite a considerable amount of money that was originally marked red, but they said they're going to be catching up. Where is the majority of that revenue going to be generated from? If you can just share a little bit in terms of that. Most of my other SANB questions have already been asked. Then in terms of the SANParks presentation, so my colleague, Honourable Winkler, has referred to that report that was written by Julian Rodemeyer. And Chairperson, I would like to formally request and propose through you or to you that you, in your capacity as acting Chairperson, assist us in having that presentation of that report made to our committee, and perhaps inviting Julian Rodemeyer to present to the committee, and also to invite the Minister of Police and that committee to the meeting as well. The reason I say that is, the report is specifically focused on the criminality that is taking place in and around SANParks, and it links it not only to the poaching, but to all sorts of other activities that are linked to that, including cash and transit robberies, drug dealing, etc. And we hear the same refrain over and over again, which is that from the department's perspective and from SANParks' perspective, they can only do so much in the absence of any real assistance from the SAPs. So I would propose, Chairperson, formally that we have that report served before our committee as a matter of urgency, and that the police committee and the Minister of Police be invited to that meeting as well. Chair, just in terms of the SANParks report, most of my questions have already been asked. The CEO position, I got a response to a question last year from the Minister, which said that the position was due to be filled by November. I know some steps have been taken, as I understand, and that it was advertised and applications were received, etc. But we're now in mid-March, and we still have an acting CEO. What is happening with that position? Can we get some timeframes, and can we also find out what has been transpiring since November last year? Then just in slide 9, when are we going to actually have an implementation plan in place for the recommendations of the high-level panel? There are lots of things in there that need to be done that need a proper implementation plan in order to be followed through on. On slide 44, just the human capital management plan, when is that going to be implemented? Is there a time frame around that? And if so, can we please have that? Honourable Webber has spoken about those ranger posts. I mean, frankly, it's absurd to suggest that, we shouldn't be filling those ranger posts, or that they're not a priority or they're not urgent. I consider myself a reasonably logical person, and I have searched the realms of my own logic to try and understand why there would be any sense in not filling those posts, especially if there is budget available. And if we look at the report, I know Honourable Webber said 70% of all staff, but my understanding is 40% of the enforcement employees are involved in some form of corruption, as reported in that report. If anything, we need some fresh eyes and ears and some new rangers to bulk up the existing capacity that's taking place. Those people who are putting their lives at risk every day shouldn't be doing so in isolation. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Bryant. Honourable Ganjo.
Thank you, Chairperson. Greetings to colleagues and the Minister, Deputy Minister in absentia. Chair, most of the questions have been asked by my colleagues. I have one question for SANBI. I want to check with them if there's any step that they have taken to address the issue of accommodation constraints that caused some of the WIL students to decline. Can they share with us if there were any steps that were taken with regards to that? At SANParks, Honourable Webber has already asked the issue of the safety of the visitors. And I also wanted to ask them whether if there is any measures, and if they can tell us if those measures have been effective in terms of reducing those crime incidents in Kruger National Parks, and especially the hotspots that were mentioned. And the second one for SANParks, if also they can share with us how their partnership with universities impacted the training of young scientists and of those who are interested in conservation. Lastly, Chairperson, at SANParks, they can also share with us, I heard Honourable Webber mention the issue of kids and parks, but I just want to check the success of these programs in promoting environmental education amongst the school children. Is it working? Is the schools assisting in terms of this environmental education? Thank you, Chairperson. That's it from me.
Thank you, Honourable Gancho. Honourable Mkunu.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. Greetings to the honourable members and the Minister, the Deputy Minister in absentia, and all the chairpersons and the CEOs of the CFOs of the board, the DG, and the team, and all the team. Chairperson, my first question on SANPark is on the strategy. I mean, the target that was not met on the animals that they were supposed to donate to communities. On that one, my question is, do we have a plan and a strategy of ensuring that all those animals species do not diminish if they are reduced in numbers, and that we have that plan and strategy? Does it talk to the population increase of each species beyond the drought, beyond all the effects that caused the reduction of the number of the animals that were supposed to be donated? Again, there is a target that was the target that was not met, which is which was caused by the TB in some of the parks. My question, Honorable Chairperson, is that have they managed to arrest the spread of the TB to all the parks, in all the parks within SANParks? And if we can get the reports on a continuous basis so that we can be sure that all our animals are safe and are out of this TB outbreak. The third one, the CEO presented on the plan to deal with their human resource, and firstly appreciate that they were able to identify the employee ratio, that the employee ratio was high. And how do we, my question is, do we have a standard norm that we adhere to as government entities? And if we have exceeded it, and in terms of the strategy and in terms of the plan that has been approved by the board, how long do they think that they are going to achieve that threshold? The last one, Honorable Chair, to iSimangaliso, is to appreciate their effort when it comes to their finances, and wish to see that there are engagements with the farmers, with the stakeholders around the place, and appreciate also to the Minister the appointment of the new board. And we hope and trust that INCOSI is going to be a good asset in managing the stakeholders, in particular, since that iSimangaliso is surrounded by Amakosi areas, and most population belong to Amakosi in the districts that are affected. And we are hoping to get more updates on managing those issues and the impacts of the flooding, in particular of the farm areas, the subsistence farmers and the farmers in general that have been heavily impacted by the flooding in those areas. It's just an appreciation of the report. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mtunu. Honorable Weber. Honorable Winkler, sorry.
Thank you, Chair. So sorry, there were just a few.
This is the problem of W's.
The best letter in the alphabet.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I wanted to ask is that in one of the presentations, it had said that the department had provided comment on the draft basic assessment report for the proposed Fuleni mine. Is it possible to get the report and what the recommendations were? And similarly for the proposed Jozini quarry, I think it's really important to understand what the approach is to that. Then, and just with regard to the emerging farmers again, the animals that are being donated from the parks, what is the project plan from the emerging farmers? Are they going to be doing photographic tourism, ecotourism, or are these also donations to farms in terms of farming wild animals to enter into the game meat economy? If there could just be some clarity on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Winkler. Before we invite the entities to respond, and then there comes that camera. Ordinarily, when you see Minister Chris switches on her camera, you must know she wants to say something. Then it goes off again, that's fine. Sanbi, just on my side, I wanted to check if there is a direct correlation, you know, or a linkage between the achievements of your targets and the respective budget allocations for those specific activities. Isn't it that if the targets are not achieved, then there should be an underspending? If that's not the case, why is it the case? What is the assimilation rate in the workplace of those who went to your Groensebenza program? Can we just get that rate there? So that would be on the part of Sandy. SANParks. You know, there is a book called Playing God in Yellowstone. The author there asserts that the destruction of the America's first national park is actually being destroyed by these very people who are assigned to protect it. Now, chair of the board, I think News 24 on the 3rd of March, on the 4th of March, published a story that says a large-scale corruption by staff members, in particular at Kruger National Park, is soaring at least 40% of law enforcement officers, which are the employees of the park, who are involved in the graft. That article is there. I challenge the chairperson of the board and the management to clarify the veracity of this alleged report. It would be helpful to the committee to understand who commissioned this report and how was this estimate arrived at? You know, these projections, how were they arrived at? But be that as it may, I'm sure the board, honorable members and the minister will agree with me that it cannot be right if indeed is correct that half of the law enforcement officials are involved in corruption in Kruger National Park. I'm sure all of us are at consensus insofar as that is concerned. But let's get the veracity of this particular report and what is the position of the park. I think one of the honorable members has asked this question that relates to people acting there. I think we have been too soft on this matter. And it can't be that every time when we meet with SANParks, we are told of acting. What is the problem? Why can't you advertise, appoint, or, I mean, when is it going to stop? I think it is also going to be very helpful that all the committees, all the entities must give us the reports of, particularly at senior management level, including positions of CEOs, COOs, etc. How many are those? And why are we not filling those particular vacancies? How many positions are being acted upon in all the entities? I'm sure that information will be helpful to us. But in the case in point is SANParks. it has been going on for a very long time. And we are not getting a sense of whether there's willingness, or whether you are not getting people who are applying, or whether people who are applying do not meet the necessary qualifications and criteria. I don't understand. But it's just been going on for a long time, and it must stop. But chair of the board of SANParks, and perhaps in the board, don't you think this is posing a threat on the functionality and stability of the organization? Because, well, it is my conviction that, and I'm sure you'll agree, that often people who are acting, they would avoid accountability. They are aware that they are just being helping out. They are just helping out. So it is human nature that they cannot be nudged. So they are avoiding accountability from one point to the other. We able to get a consolidated report with facts from a person who understood the start point of a particular project to its end without vacillation. I'm just saying we must just be clear. Please help us on this thing. Honorable Minister, I saw your camera was on. Let me invite you first.
Thank you very much, Honourable Chairperson. And let me start with the legitimate concern regarding acting persons. I am pleased to a recommendation of the CEO and of SANParks, and this matter is now in the cabinet system. There was the recruitment process had been concluded in December. However, there are certain verification processes that have to be gone through. The first of those is qualifications verification, and the second of those is police clearance, and that is what has unfortunately caused the delay, but that has all been sorted out now. And I hope that by the end of this month, we should have a permanent appointment. With regard to the issue of the rhino poaching statistics, honourable members will remember that I released rhino poaching statistics in January. We release every January and we release every July. And the annual figures for January were 124 rhino that were poached in the calendar year in SANParks parks, and that number is the previous year it was 209 in SANParks, and the year before that it was 247. So and you will recall at the time I talked about the fact that we were having some successes in bringing down the numbers of rhino poached in SANParks parks. I spoke about the displacement to Isimangaliso in KZN. And I also spoke about the fact that nevertheless, we would continue with issues such as dehorning and so on. Now, honourable members, you know, because we have discussed this matter before, it's not a secret that staff in national parks and in provincial parks, some staff do work together with syndicates. That is not a secret, because we know that inside information is one of the mechanisms that syndicates use. I think you also would be aware that there have been arrests in Kruger of some staff members that would have been participating. The issue that we have been grappling with for some time is the question of being able to do the necessary integrity testing. I don't know what is the politically correct term for conducting integrity testing. I'm just thinking of the the term that's used in the SOAPI's lie detector testing, but I know there's a there's a politically correct term. I just can't think what it is.
I think it's polygraph testing, Minister. Sorry to interrupt.
Thank you, Member Bryant. Polygraph testing, that's the word I'm looking for. Thank you. And what we have been in negotiations with organised labour on this matter for some time, but we are now reaching a situation where we are agreeing that polygraph testing can be done on a voluntary basis. And obviously, there would be staff who would want to undertake that because they don't feel comfortable with the feeling that they are under suspicion. It's a very, very complicated matter, and it's a very painful matter. And when one meets rangers and one understands the life and death situation that is going on in some of these parks, it's actually awful because to be worried that your colleagues are putting your life at risk in a life and death situation is very ugly. So I think the chair and the acting CEO can speak a little bit more about what progress we're making with regard to voluntary polygraph testing, and we see that as being an important step forward. Unfortunately, most of the Ranger Corps were appointed without this being part of the conditions of service, and you know that there are you can't unilaterally change conditions of service. Can I just say that with regard to EI full report, what we're not going to do is to release reports submitted by particular authorities. If you want that, you can go through the pilot process, and we will consider that matter. But we always release full reports on all EIAs, and the reports summarize the views of all parties in that process. So those EIA reports are always matters of public record. With regard to the issue of the back flooding at iSimangaliso, honourable members are correct. I did go there last week. I did have the opportunity to get an aerial view of the flooding. It's extremely serious. I did take the opportunity to engage with small-scale farmers and also the commercial farmers on the matter. There have been some suggestions put to me by the commercial farmers, which my legal team is interrogating at the moment. I also took the opportunity to meet my counterpart in KZN and request him to support a disaster management declaration in KZN around this particular area. I did phone him after I had been on the aerial visit and again emphasized my request to the relevant MEC that we need to support this process. And I think we are awaiting news from COGTA as to whether they are going. But we fully agree with all stakeholders that this is a serious process and it needs to be expedited. I think what Mr. Bokosini will explain is that the long term is not the problem, because what you would have understood is prior to the high level panel, there was never any adaptive management. There was never any adaptive management of the estuary where socioeconomic circumstances were a criteria. It just said that certain things can be done in exceptional circumstances, but it didn't define what were exceptional circumstances. So we are busy with that process. The CEO will tell you all the timeframes in that regard. And that will help us with the long-term situation. I think what we are all seized with at the moment is there anything we can do to avoid a full EIA in the short term, because that would, of course, have to be an 18-month process, and it would be suboptimal with the rate of flooding at the moment. Chair, let me pause there. Let me hand over to colleagues to give details on the rest of the issues. And also, Chair, I'm going to request your indulgence to leave the meeting in 10 minutes as I have to attend to another function. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Granted, Minister. Let's start with Sandy.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not alone. I'm with the CFO. I'm also with Kamel, who is the head of biodiversity science support. I've got Elliot Manshile, who is the COO, who would also be coming in areas that need details. The questions that were asked, not in any particular order. I may also start with the question that Honorable Paulsen raised about the jobs created. If it's specific to Grun Sebenza in particular, I did indicate that the target is 1,050 that will come on board and have these graduates coming in for 2 years minimum, being mentored, working, getting experience. As we have seen previously, most of them would also find opportunities either where they are appointed as graduates or in other facilities on the basis of the strength of their experience from the opportunities that are being given. There are other programs and projects that benefit through the department's support, like this one, including but not limited to those that will create job opportunities through EPWP supported programs. One of the programs is what we call Greening and Open Space Program, which also gets interns that come through from different fields, including horticulture and others in different gardens across the country. That also create that. But the establishment of gardens themselves, I did speak about the Twendo Botanical Garden. I spoke about which is in Limpopo and the one in the Eastern Cape. So are other gardens in all other provinces except for Northwest. The mere existence of those gardens would facilitate value chains. Part of what may not necessarily be related to other value chains would be the core staff that would be required to maintain those spaces. And then there are services and goods and services that come from different aspects, similar to, it may not be at the same scale as SANParks per se. That is but one of the issues. And then if there's any additional issues that we'll need to add on this, we can. We are sitting currently at 880 of the 1050 as per yesterday, and we are working towards 1050 by the end of this month, so that, or plus, so that those would then be taken through as I indicated. Honorable Winkler, you raised on the issue around the Green Climate Fund. Kamel will come in on this one a bit later with specifics on the different programs that we have. I think there are 6 or 7 or so covering a number of areas, from strategic water sources, disaster risk reduction, adaptation in the farming space, marine and coastal. So she will talk to that in detail on the number of programs that are there, but also to indicate the process, because the process is quite elaborate. SANBI is the direct access entity. I think there are 2 of us. DPSA is also one of them. But we work under the guidance of the department being the national designated authority. In that process, the projects would follow a particular process defined by the Green Climate Fund, and projects are at different levels to that effect. And then she may also refer to what we received for project preparation, because in that space, there is concept note that has to come as a proposal. You have to have a project preparation fund and a project preparation process. To go to the full proposal is that elaborate process that we've been going through, and hence I referred to projects at different stages. But upfront, that project preparation process will indicate how much would be required to deliver on the implementation of that project. As Kamel will talk to that. When it comes to the issue of 30 by 30, we work under the guidance of the department. The department is committed, as always, to domesticate the global biodiversity framework, whose target is the one that is referred to, and many other targets. I think there are 23 or 20, whatever number that is there. What SANBI does, and as tasked and assigned within the framework of our mandate, is to provide the support required from a science policy interface perspective. Part of what we do, which relates to 30 by 30, is to define the critical biodiversity areas. Where are they in the country? Where are the ecosystems that are under stress that will need to be protected, which would also contribute to 30 by 30? Where are the other areas that will come in the form of strategic water sources, mapped and delineated appropriately for that purpose? The key biodiversity areas and other areas that will benefit species that will need to be protected. The target itself also refers to other opportunities. SANBI, working with the department, also provides some land community of practice associated with stewardship program, which also adds areas that could form part of the 30 by 30. So are other areas as well. So we are in that space through the implementation program led by the department, and all of us playing their roles, not only ourselves, SANParks, provinces, and others to that effect. That's how we contribute, and we are hard at work along those lines. There was a question that was asked about the projects and the 95 million resource mobilization, and where are the sources beyond the GEF, which is the Global Environmental Facility. There are others, including DSI. There is a list that Kamel will talk to on different areas that we cover on projects that are over 5 million. There are many others that are lower than that, but those that are over 5 million rands, just to indicate, demonstrate a range of sources that come through national and international sources. Kamel will deal with that. Honorable Gancho, this issue of accommodation for learners is a headache. What we did as one of the responses to this was to adjust the stipends, adjust them upwards with the view to support and accommodate those, most of our gardens, because some of them are in places where it's not easy to stay, and we experience what Honorable Gancho has indicated, which is a concern for us. We don't have accommodation except what we are trying in Kirstenbosch. I'm saying trying because it's not adequate, but in Kirstenbosch we do have accommodation. In other areas, it's quite a challenge. And the young people would have to rent somewhere, and then there's a bit of transport considered. And then through our HR, we had to look at that and put some cost to support that part through an adjusted level of stipend to respond to that issue, so that we minimize declines on the basis of failing to find space to stay, or not. I mean, except for experience, maybe in monetary terms, it may not worth the participation by other young people. That's the part that we have done to try and close the gap. Honorable Mutise, Honorable Chair, our target for any financial year, as prescribed by the minister, is that everyone has to get a distinction, and the distinction is nothing less than 80%, but it has to be 85, 90, 100% in terms of what we had planned to achieve, unless if there are many external dependencies that may have taken us off course. And we think that we are on course to achieve more than 90% by the end of the financial year, which then brings the question of direct correlation between the budget and the plans into what Honorable Chair was saying. So we may have had on the matter of Groensewenza, young people coming in a bit later, because there are a lot of compliance matters that we didn't want to be subjected to adverse or any other negative related audit external or on the basis of failing to follow certain protocols. It's quite elaborate, especially when you're working with third parties on the movement of funds, but also that when we get young people on board, we don't want them to be frustrated. So the rate, I think, as I indicated, Q1, Q2 in the preparatory, we're expecting close to 500. By Q3, we're at 160. We then moved with speed in January and February. As I said, now we're sitting at around 880. And then the project is not a one-year program. It's a 3-year program. We anticipated that there will be a lot of preparatory challenges in the first year. Then we'll focus on the second and third year, starting from 1st of April, on the manner that we want them supported. I'll hand over to Kamer just to reflect on those two areas that I've indicated, and also reflect slightly also on the DSI. Honorable Paulson, you are correct in saying that we have a very strong relationship with the Department of Science and Innovation. They fund some of the programs that we are engaged in, including but not limited to those that we referred to, those that deal with genomics and forensics and biobank and others. Kamel, if you can just come in and talk to those areas that are ending, and then if CFO or COO need to add, they will be able to do so.
Thank you, CEO. Through you, Honourable Chair. In terms of the Green Climate Fund, we are making progress with the proposal development work. We have not received any project implementation funding as yet, but we did receive $182,000 for what they call readiness funds. And this is to develop the proposals and engage all the relevant stakeholders. So like CEO has said, we currently have 7 proposals that are under development. We have 2 proposals that have now been approved by the GCF for full development. And the first one is around ecosystem-based disaster risk reduction. It's for $30 million, and basically it's focused on flooding. The second one that has been approved for further development is ecosystem-based approaches for smallholder farmers, and this is looking at early warning systems and climate smart agriculture. This is $25 million. The other 5 proposals very quickly deal with water security, looking at improving our security of our strategic water source areas. The other one is focused on coastal provinces. We have one on a just transition project that focuses on livelihood creation and rehabilitation of ex-mining lands. The 6th one is on aquifer recharge. And then last but not least, we have a proposal under development on community adaptation, and it's about developing a small grants facility. So this is the work in progress in terms of the Green Climate Fund. Then through you, Honourable Chair, if I could go to the next question, which was around our revenue generation and our mobilization of funding to support our research and policy work, our mandate work. And currently we've got 14 strategic initiatives, which are over 5 million rand, where we report on a quarterly basis to our board on the progress with regards to those. And they are made up of a number of different funding sources, mainly donor funding sources, but also funding from our Department of Science and Innovation. And Honourable Chair, I will just very quickly go through what they cover. The Natural Science Collections Facility is a DSI-funded initiative, and this responds to the question about how we engaging with our Department of Science and Innovation around our research work. So the National Science Collection Facility, the Biobank South Africa project, and the Foundational Biodiversity Information Program are all funded by DSI and form part of DSI's research infrastructure. So very key to their science, technology and innovation implementation plan. Honourable Chair, I've got a list of these 14, but maybe it won't be good use of time to go through them, but they cover a wide area of our mandate, including our biodiversity information system, ecological infrastructure for water security, our living catchments project, catalyzing financing and capacity for the biodiversity economy around protected areas, unlocking climate finance for climate change adaptation, just to mention a few of them. But our collaboration with our Department of Science and Innovation has really grown and strengthened over the last 10 to 12 years. And our foundational biodiversity science in particular is where we've been engaging with science and innovation and getting funding to